Good day to you. I like to share some thoughts about the way the world has run when we are all very worried about the pandemic that's affecting many nations. Here is an example. The world ran on 7 spheres or 7 mountains. I like to call this message 7 altitudes and 7 attitudes. So we have, let's use my hand for this, there's 5 here. The world's government, and at one time Rex was Lex, that is, king was the law, but Samuel Rutherford and John Locke pronounced it, and we know that they hoped that in governance law would be king. Then we have the family, which is also a government. I like to say at the beginning itself, God governs through the family with the God-given desire for raising up children and do well for them. So the family is a local government, if you may, the best of mom and dad, best of man and woman, ruling the world. So you have that cradles, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, brought to focus the fact that home is government. Now when home government was good, effective, and families bonded, there were lifelong relationships, world did well, government did well, because government began at home. Work ethic began at home. When the family disrupted, different things invaded the family, and there is no lifelong fidelity, no long-term relationships. Even in the family, utilitarianism took the place of fidelity. Government began to break down. So the government, the family, then there are religions, and then the secular humanistic religion took the world by storm, in the sense it spread faster than any else. Older religions took centuries to root, beginning in a country to spread around. But with the Industrial Revolution and Darwin's evolution and the Industrial Revolution and Sigmund Freud and Karl Marx, and very quickly the relativistic thinking, existential philosophies began to spread around and became a religion. So there's a utopia that man works for, which will make him all happy, and Freud thought sex was the way to that utopia. Marx said social equality is the way to that utopia, and Charles Darwin said it's the survival of the fittest that makes the utopia. So man changed their religion from nation to nation into this one religion that made man the creator of all things, because they said God was created in the image of man's need. They said man was created, God was created in the image of the need of primitive man. I don't subscribe to that. I think, I believe otherwise, but how secular humanism originated. So that religion took the world by storm, and many subscribed to it, and scientists became the prophets of that religion, and consumerism, market and marketers became the evangelists of that religion. So that religion also has prophets and evangelists. One who spreads the great news that there's going to be an economic boom, or come what may, there's going to be economic boom, and we can eat as much as we can, consume as much as we can, produce as much as we can. So economic freedom, like in Freud's time it was sexual freedom that was going to bring the utopia. In Marx's time it was political freedom that was going to bring the utopia. And by the time secular humanism became the world's known religion, it was economic freedom that was going to bring the utopia, and then drive the market with advertisement, and then increase the demand and keep supply coming in, and that would be utopia on earth, people thought, and so the consumerist extravaganza began. So here again, I am doing 7 mountains, the government, the family, and that was supposed to be the haven that would have the nearest to God's heart, if you may, nearest to ethic, family values, nearest to man is the most important, the child unborn, and the little child is the most important. So little child gets all the attention, so man's best came in the family. I think still we may agree to that. Though family itself is contested, shape of the family, who marries whom, all that's under contest and contestation, and competition has taken over from complementation. But still most people would say family was the best that man could do, man did. So government, family, then how the religion sweeps over. Then we have education, professions and professional services. Webster's original dictionary defined professions as those who don't earn money. It's not a business. They said those who don't know business. So medicine was not supposed to be a business. Law was not supposed to be a business. All those are meant to be professions to serve, benefactors serving out of beneficence. That's what education was meant to be. So education is a massive mountain, but now we know education is a very expensive mountain, and it's a very viable commercial enterprise. And we, from our country, for instance, we would spend millions to get our children educated in other countries where they don't get their jobs at the same level, but still parents would spend all that they can. So education has also become a business, and then the professions have become a business. I'm just observing, this is not a criticism, but what has gone on. So big pharma is a business, and unless the doctors prescribe, pharmaceuticals don't earn. So a doctor can prescribe amoxicillin for 10 rupees, produced by the State Pharmaceutical Corporation in Sri Lanka, or a doctor can prescribe a very expensive drug like Augmentin that will cost you 60 rupees. So that's how much discretion a doctor has in his hands. And then, so this is the education, professions, services mountain. And on the other side, you have the economic bis mountain, where this consumerist extravaganza has been going on. And with limited resources, when the world is shrinking, we can see what may make war is actually not the politics but the economics. Then to add this little finger, we have the world of the sphere and the mountain of IT, media and entertainment. You can see how much that mountain has consumed. Then on this side, if you add another finger, the 7th one, you have the sports empire. Now, sports is very good for school age, and it teaches us teamwork and all that. To some measure, it gives room for those who don't excel in academics to excel in another field. Then after that comes the commercialized world of sports, match fixing, drug abuse and all that. So I'm not being derogatory, I'm just laying out the 7 mountains, 7 spheres of influence as they have operated in the world. Now, and then I want to get on to so this I call the 7 altitudes, and I want to get on to the 7 attitudes. Now here it is. Blessed are the needy who help others because of their own need. So here is some of you may recognize where I am getting it from, but let me make it as widely applicable as possible. Blessed are the needy who remain needy, who understand need, who feel needy, who understand the importance of helping another because I need help. And the other side would be, terrible would be the world where the needy have no place, and a person who feels I have got it all, he will become a pharaoh, and a pharaoh with an empire, and that empire only may be just 4 people, him and his family, or 4 other people who are dependent on him for livelihood, smaller the pharaoh, terrible the fellow is. That's how society goes. So, here is my thesis. Blessed are the needy, for they shall be empowered to take care of more needy, because they understand need. They always say, I am needy. What's the opposite thing? So this is a good attitude. What's the opposite thing? I have no need. I owe nobody anything. I am a self-made man. I know how hard it was, and I have come up the ladder, and I know how to come up the ladder, and everybody else is now a stepping stone only for my success. Then the second attitude, blessed are the meek, for they shall make room for others. Meek are those who know their weakness, and the meek are those who are pliable, flexible. They make room for others, so they will have a larger area of influence given. They will inherit or influence a greater part of earth because they make space for others. So seniors who are meek, providing space for others, understanding the life struggle upwards, will have more coming under their influence, and that would be a God kind of world, if you may. Blessed are the meek. Then what is the opposite of that? Terrible will be the oppressors, who the dinosaurs, the global tyrannosaurs, the oligarchs, who don't leave any room for others. They just take over different resources different nations have, and they are building a real tower like the Tower of Babel, and they are already planning how to get hold of all the resources of the world and to make the world a big fiefdom where citizens are serfs. So what's a good thing? Blessed are the meek, for they shall have an enlarging portion of influence. There they give legacy, succession for another generation to come into play, yet another generation in professions. The fathers who taught, role models we had in politics, in professions and so on. So that's the world of the meek. I'm not saying they were perfect people, but they understood space is given in order to share. Thirdly, blessed are they that mourn when they see error, for they will have comfort, or they will have an effective solution to give others a second chance and a hope for regeneration or reformation. Hope for reformation. So what is the principle? Third principle, blessed are those who take to tears rather than to cudgels, so that will change the oppressor, that will change the offender, that will change the victimizer or the one who wants to vanquish others. So I don't know whether you have experience of this, but certainly if it's my son or my daughter who's involved in a trouble, or even my spouse involved in an error, then blessed are those who mourn or move to compassion, that makes room for another, change of heart for another, to reconcile. Leave room for reconciliation. Don't do tooth for tooth, don't do eye for eye. Blessed are those who have a sorrowful response. Now COVID has returned to our country, and we do have a sorrowful response because kids can't go to school, fathers can lose jobs again. Now we don't go shouting at the government. We are moving in sorrow to see all what we can do in a situation like that. So I am suggesting to you there's a thing called godly sorrow or compassion, which is the principle of the cross. The errors of some, there has to be a reconciling community that would bear the errors of others. I call them the lamb kind. And I have called this before, the tit for tat kind is the goat kind. They put their horns first when they have a problem. They engage horns first when they have a problem. So that's the third attitude. Fourth attitude, I like to say, those who keep straight lines and have a passion for getting things right for others in their profession, and they lay down a standard. Now there are professions we do with straight lines: engineers, surveyors, lawyers, teachers, of course, straight line people. Coaches are a little more flexible, because coaching has to do with the ability that the person has. Of course, all sports have laws. However, in getting into in skill development, coaches and mentors and HR people have to be merciful. We come to that, the attitude of mercy, what it does. But we have to have in society straight line keepers, do things to a plumb line and to the level. So the blessed are such people, because they keep society functioning, and they keep, what shall I say, they keep the standards, so to say. We need them. Then the fifth one is, blessed are those who do not mix their seed. It's called blessed are the pure, meaning they are not, it's not about motives only, but blessed are those who do not add the evil, calling it good. So in the medical profession, we had the oath of Hippocrates till 1972. So I entered medical faculty in 1972 January, and we had to take the oath of Hippocrates, the old one, part of which was a medical practitioner shall not help women to procure an abortion. That was part of our oath. It changed exactly in 1972, middle of 1972, when they adjusted the oath of Hippocrates without this thing that doctors would say that they would not help women procure an abortion. And then came the Roe versus Wade court struggle, and then abortion began to get legalized in many countries. Thankfully, in Sri Lanka, abortion is still illegal. It's a long debate. I have an article on my blog, Dr. Lalith Mendis blog, on abortion, the social holocaust. If you want to, you can have it. I can send it to you. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis. My last post was as head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty in Sri Lanka. At present, I am the founding director of Colombo Empathic Learning Center. If you send me a WhatsApp number, to my WhatsApp number, +94 77 49 59 214, I can send you some of these articles which I did as the lecture on ethics in the faculty, and also as a founding member of the SLMA Ethics Committee when we drafted the Health Right Charter. So that's just by the way, just giving you an understanding of how profession can mix up good with evil. And increasingly what happens is, what has an appearance of good, like a vaccine, it can get quite mixed up with evil intention. So that's what happened to the Wuhan virus, how gain on function virus research that began in US, and Harvard and Johns Hopkins protested about that gain on function virus research by the CDC US in 2014. They shifted the whole thing to Wuhan laboratories and they funded it. That's how this new virus came about. These things can be followed on virological platforms that came on the web those days, and it was 5 Indian scientists who first reported on the origin of the Wuhan virus, which is an old virus into which they have at a point where genetic engineering can be done, an enzyme called the furin enzyme. Therefore, that particular RNA structure where the furin enzyme acts, it has acted in a laboratory, and part of the HIV virus has been annexed to this virus. So world over, experts have commented on it. It is contested, of course, but the truth is that that is how this virus from the last CoV-1 virus, the CoV-2 virus has this particular attachment to human cells and to a human receptor. That spike protein has been so developed with a genetic engineering. So I just gave you an example of blessed are the pure, for they shall keep society, what shall I say, they shall keep society fair for all, if you may, with a good intention, a God intention. But when professions begin to mix good with the evil, it would be, because the benefactors have now become malefactors. So when Lancet published that article, which quoting data from an organization called Sugisphere, and then said hydroxychloroquine is ineffective by fraudulent data and fraudulent analysis, and then Lancet has to retract the article. So when a major article like Lancet, I mean every week we would run to the SLMA library to read the Lancet and read the NEJM, both of which have been publishing articles that became contested. So you lose faith in science because you are wondering what is talking, whether science is talking or money is talking. Here is another example. They kept writing of hydroxychloroquine saying it was not proved in a randomized clinical trial. Now there are a whole host of scientists like Professor Raoult who insist that experimental science first basis, observational science is pretty good science because it's science first hand. Science was born in first hand science. So randomized clinical trials, they said did not prove hydroxychloroquine, though there have been studies that proved hydroxychloroquine. However, now they are giving remdesivir to President Trump. Remdesivir was never proved in a randomized clinical trial. In the Oxford trial, they stopped hydroxychloroquine halfway, introduced remdesivir without protocol, which is not scientific procedure, and ended up by saying dexamethasone is effective. We all know from the days we were medical students, we knew dexamethasone is effective in an immune problem. It's no big deal. So now what have they done? They have returned to remdesivir with no clinical trial, giving it to the President of USA. Now that will be quoted as the gold standard. So this is how, when science gets mixed up with monetary interests, it's not science that's talking, it's money that's talking. Long explanation about blessed are those who keep things pure. It will, in their profession, in their field, who else will know unless the people involved in the profession, involved in the science. I'm sure engineers can give examples on engineering. I can best give examples out of my own professional experience. Just one more thing, the Jupiter trial 1990, which made the medical world to accept statins as anti-cholesterol treatment, is based on a complete fib and a myth. I have extensively written on this. You can check it out in my blog. The original Jupiter trial was contested, saying that it's not right, that the statistics are not right. Then they did another statistical alignment to bring out better statistics. That's the problem with statistics. And then they said, no, it's not the original statement of cholesterol being not synthesized, it's an anti-inflammatory action. Of course, statins have an anti-inflammatory action. Statins have an immune suppressing action. So if you are on statins, your immunity is not working properly. That's a fact. Therefore, when the COVID storm is on and you want to suppress the hyperimmune storm, statins are effective, just the way dexamethasone is effective. So that's just a jump to what has been going on. And I can quote quite a few pharmacological examples. One more, aspirin was criminalized. But 1985, the last time aspirin was included in a randomized clinical control trial, meta-analysis by the British BMC Committee on Drug Safety. In that trial, it was proved aspirin is the safest NSAIDs, that is non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug, but nobody prescribes aspirin now. You need to ask why. I can go on with a few more examples, but that is enough for you to understand. When people mix up good and the evil, how damaged society will be. Same with sex activity and whole host of others. But let's get on. The next one I want to say is, blessed are those who try to make peace on either side of the divide, racial divide, Tamil and Sinhala, or Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter divide. We desperately need people who see the viewpoint of the other side, and they have to become peacemakers, those who occupy the gap. What is the gap? Gap is the place, the breach of trust that spews out animus, hostility, accusation, indictment, blame transfer. So you need a few people, a remnant of people. Blessed are the peacemakers. The original says they shall be called the children of God, because God has a hard time keeping factious people together, even in one nation. And then imagine keeping nations together in a family of nations, which was what nations meant to be. Now, not only have we violated being a family of nation, each nation working against the other, in a given nation, few people all the time work to get maximum benefit. So what works in capitalist countries, capital is money. What works in communist countries is power is money. The power play, political power play is capital. So both systems have miserably failed. So we need peacemakers on either side of a divide, racial, caste, or whatever the divide, who can think with others and who can think for others. So that is what a Prince of Peace would be, that is what a shepherd would be, that is what a reconciler would be. So we do have a word of reconciliation, we have a mission of reconciliation, to think the way the other side thinks and get our side to understand this. So there have to be people who say we are humans first before we are Sinhalese, and we are humans first before we are Tamils. That of course needs a big change of heart. Some of us are fortunate to have been in schools that never considered race or religion. But increasingly we are in a factious world where peacemaking has its own cost, and you have heard it, the messenger is shot, dead sometimes, because of the message he carries. Of course, this is the story of the cross. The messenger was not shot but crucified because of the message he carried. And the message he carried was that all people have access to God without religion, without sacrifices, and without priests. And that became hot stuff. So who led the charge and the indictment and the kangaroo court against the Prince of Peace were the religious hierarchy. The common man was quite happy for this message. So that's another story, but illustrating that we need identify the divides, and you need to make a mission of life which divide that you will stand and make a difference and make reconciliation, though it can be quite costly for you. So at present what happens is those who get first classes or second uppers do not like to go to university staff, because faculty staff, their salaries are pittance. But if in the medical world you go for practicing, you get much better salaries. So it's a hard time nowadays, unlike in our time, to get academic staff who have got first class into faculties, because it's a kind of peacemaking. It's a kind of coming back to teach our profession better. So these are some of cost factors that go on. We need, blessed are the peacemakers. They carry a sense of God, sense of right for the disadvantaged, sense of right for the underdog, sense of right for the oppressed, sense of right for the minority in a majoritarian view, where the majority is might and majority is right. So that's about peacemaking. Then we have the final 7th point, blessed are the mercy dealers, because they also will receive mercy. Now, mercy is like this. We all talk justice when we are in the right. And we ask for justice, especially for others. Now, when we are in the wrong and we get caught to a cop with the smartphone in our ear, we will say, you know, so-and-so, I was on a call because it was a patient who was calling me, or hospital I was calling, or we will make an appeal to be exonerated. So we are pleading for mercy. But when we get on the Facebook and social media with someone's error, we are pretty vociferous, we vilify others, we might use truth to slander people. We can. Story is true, but the intention is slander. So world needs mercy. Blessed are the merciful, there will be a return of mercy. So if these are 7 attitudes that can change things in our sphere of influence. I just thought I will bring this different kind of government that can go on with these 7 attitudes. I hope this Monday talk helped you. We will keep in touch.